I'm kind of a fan of pegboard storage in general. You've probably seen it in the background of some of my videos. In the past, I've used like white plastic pegboard that you get from Home Depot, and it works great, but it's a little more DIY. You have to put some spacers between it and the wall to make room for pegs. Recently, what I've been using is this wall control pegboard, and you can see an example of it right here. And I just got a couple of horizontal panels. So I'm going to put these up on the wall and show you the install process and then tell you what I think about it. Okay, so the first thing to do is get this out of the package and wear gloves when you handle these panels. They're not kidding about that. They do have sharp edges and they will cut you. The installation process, I wanted to see if I could line it up with the vertical panel, but it turns out you can't, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I ended up just kind of hooking it to the studs. So I found all the studs and then marked a vertical line, hung the panel so that the left side hits the first stud, and then marked all the holes, drilled all the holes. I hit the stud in the first two locations, and then the third vertical location I had to do the anchors. You saw me put those in. Hang the panel with a single screw, tighten in all the other screws. And then the second panel, I'm going to skip past the installation. Basically, I just butted it up against the first panel, marked the holes, and then hung it the same way that you see me doing the first one here. So it's a pretty straightforward installation. So that's pretty much it. I got the horizontal panels up on the wall, and I found out a couple of things while I was doing this. The horizontal panels won't interface with the vertical panels. The way the holes are drilled is different. So if you line up the square slots or the rectangular slots with the vertical panel, then the round holes aren't lined up, and vice versa. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing, I spent a certain amount of time Googling to find the gap between the panels, and it turns out that I think with the horizontal panels there really isn't one, because the center to center here ends up being about 3 inches, and these are on 1-inch centers. So just hang them up against each other and you're all set. Honestly, this gap in here is almost too big to bridge with most of the accessories anyway, so I don't see that it's a big deal, but I'm pretty happy with it. Now I just got to vacuum and I'll be all set. So one thing that I like about the wall control accessories is that they accept not only conventional, hooks and such, like this guy here, but they also take the wall control dedicated accessories like these guys and this screwdriver holder here, and also things like shelves, stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to be able to run, regular pegboard pegs and the wall control pegs. Of the two, the wall control pegs are kind of a little bit more engineered, a little bit cooler, but it's nice to have the flexibility to do both. All right, so I have a few points I want to make about this wall control pegboard material. The first thing is, when you're hanging this, make sure that you pick the center mounting location and center it on a stud. And the reason for that is because the locations aren't quite 16 inches apart, they're a little bit less. And the idea is that you can string these things side by side across a bunch of studs on standard 16-inch spacing. If you don't hit the studs or you don't want to, it's not a big deal. The drywall anchors that they include are really nice and they work really well, so you're not locked into mounting on the studs. But if you do want to, line up the center of your first panel with a stud and then go from there. Second point I have is that the vertical and horizontal panels don't mate up. They don't allow you to bridge across. And I talked about that earlier and showed you why, but it's just something to keep in mind. If you want to do like a whole wall, make sure that you're going to do all vertical or all horizontal panels. Third thing is, wear gloves. I mentioned that earlier, but they do have sharp edges, so be careful when you're installing these. Okay, the fourth thing is that the panels take conventional pegs and the wall control accessories, so you can use either one. And wall control makes some really cool stuff. They have acro bin hangers, shelves, all kinds of cool stuff, so it's really kind of neat to be able to use both. And the final point, last thing I want to say, is that these things really install nicely because the spacing between the panel and the wall is taken care of already. You just put it up there, mark the holes, drill it, hang it, you're good to go. Just in general, pegboard is great because it gets tools out of boxes, off of shelves. It puts them up where you can see them, get to them. You can see if something's missing or been loaned out, and it just makes use of space that otherwise is probably not being used at all, like your wall space in a garage or in a workshop. If you don't put some pegboard up there, it's probably not doing you any good. So I highly recommend it. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back with more product reviews, quick tips for cycling, knife reviews, and all that good stuff that you like.